So we may all agree that we're all competitive, and I guess we are. Somehow, maybe from you guys, sports, school, work, or any other reasons, right? And I just read a quote. It's far easier to forgive an enemy after you got even with him by minor. I really don't agree with this. Yeah, it's easy to get even with other person and all that, but are you really feel good after that? Sometimes, sometimes it's a good thing, but sometimes it's not. For instance, I love sports. I love watching sports. My favorite sport is soccer, and I also play it. And I believe I'm very competitive. And what I noticed about myself, that is that I let people do whatever they want with, like, push me, tell me stuff. I really don't care. But in the last minute, if they really do something else, I'll go after them and probably push them inside or do something so they'll remember that I'm not a pushy person that you can push around. But sometimes I feel bad that I did that because it wasn't necessarily. It was easier to stay back and just don't play the same game as they are. So sometimes it's easier just don't do anything because we may just hurt them back, even though we like to teach them or lesson or something. But it's not. You will not forget them what they did to you. So it's not necessarily true that it's easier to forgive an enemy after you get them. You got even with them. So next time if somebody does something to you, it's better to don't do anything because you may hurt them back even worse than they did to you.
Okay, the attention device works pretty well. You've got a good point of view on the thesis statement, so that's fine. There's not really a structure that you set up at the beginning of the speech, and so you're just going to be diving in. Some of your examples, I don't think they get developed very clearly. You've got a vague reference. I think you know in your head what you're trying to talk about, so your reference is fine. But for us, I think it's fairly abstract. I don't know what you mean by being pushy on the soccer field. I think you probably have an image in your head of either a certain behavior or a style of play, but I don't know what it refers to, and as a consequence, I think that example stays very abstract for me. Your voice projects okay. I think you could use a little bit more energy there. The big issue is pacing. Sometimes you have these awkward pauses in the middle of sentences, and not necessarily where there's a comma or a period, but just sort of you stop an idea while you're speaking. You pick it up again, but it's very noticeable, and it doesn't happen in just a few places it's happening pretty regularly, and so you need to maybe develop a little bit more rhythm and get through those sentences more effectively, or just train yourself to stop between the ideas instead of in the middle of the sentences, and it'll be a little bit less noticeable. Your eye contact is usually solid. Your facial expressions are okay. I like the fact that you step forward while you're speaking to us and kind of approach the audience a little bit. I think that indicates a lot more energy in the presentation than we're getting from your voice, but it does give you a much better impression as a consequence. Once again, as I've said to people, I like the fact that people are coming back to the idea that they started with, and remember the point is, why is it I've talked to you about these things? There's a point of view that I had that I wanted to remind you of, and that, having a relatively clear point of view at the end of the speech covers a lot of sins, and I think that you did that pretty well.
Thank you.